No, I didn't really like Despicable Me at first, but it really grew on me. Hey, shh! Welcome back to Not Another Needless Sequel, where we watch movies and propose unnecessary prequels, sequels, reboots, and remakes. My name is Kane. I am joined today by Kelsey. We're married, and that's worse than you saying a line.
Well, you didn't want me to say lines. You want me to say lines. Despicable Me.
This week we embraced our inner minion-loving Facebook mom in 2010's Despicable Me. So what's the story there?
Gru adopts some kids to help him steal the moon.
Okay.
Is that not?
Yeah, basically. So it starts out with showing you that the pyramids, I guess, I don't know if it was just one or several of them, have been stolen, replaced with like an inflatable pyramid.
I feel like we should specify the Pyramid of Egypt.
Yes. And
thankfully, the people from the Mummy weren't stuck in there.
They're wondering who did it, and it shows us the main character, Gru, voiced by Steve Carell. He's like this super villain. You see him just going about his day to day. He's an absolute menace. He's walking down the street and sees a kid who had some ice cream and dropped it on the ground, and he's crying. And he grabs a balloon and ties it into a balloon animal and hands it to the kid. And the kid's happy for a second, and then he pops it and just walks away. Like, the kid was already having a shit day. He just decided to make it worse.
I think what's even funnier for me is during that like intro scene when they get on the news, like somebody stole the big pyramids, and it's showing all of the like historic landmarks people can steal or are worried about someone stealing, and it has a guy protecting the big beer.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the one I'd go after next for sure.
The big beer. Yeah. I wonder if that's real.
I don't know. We'd have to look that up. You're
I'm
telling
not-
me you didn't do that in your research?
No, I didn't think about it. So, Gru walks into a coffee shop. You see, like, he doesn't want to wait in line. He uses a freeze ray on the entire, like, line of people and just freezes them all and walks by and grabs whatever order, doesn't pay for it, and just heads home. And then
he was in a rush.
Yeah. He gets home to just sit there and eat his muffin. He gets a knock at the door. Girls trying to sell cookies. We'll obviously get more into them. But he's just lying and pretending he's not there. Like, just showing that, like, he's just, kind of a jerky guy. Yeah. Obviously, he's supposed to be a villain. And the freeze ray thing I want to bring out because I think that people in this movie are actually invincible and immortal.
1,000%. At least the villains.
I'm going to keep touching on that, but absolutely. Anyway, because of this new villain that's apparently not Gru that has stolen the pyramids, Gru gets word that I think Dr. Nefario, his Q, he makes him his gear and stuff. Mm-hmm. He tells Gru...
If anyone doesn't know what Q means, that's a James Bond reference.
Yeah. He tells Gru that they're saying anyone else is now lame who hasn't stolen the pyramid. And so Gru's like, okay, well, I got to come up with something big. I have this big plan, assemble the minions. And so this is the first introduction of the minions. Obviously, I mean, you have to be living under a rock to at least not have seen them. You know what they are. They've become very popular.
It's a very popular school teacher Halloween costume.
It absolutely is. They love it. One thing, anyway, as the minions are being gathered, you're kind of getting an introduction to them as well. You're seeing, like, there's, like, a minion, like, trying to hammer in a nail into a steel beam, it seems. And he like, gets hit on the head. It's a whole thing. They're obviously not that smart. But I had two things that I saw about this. The directors, Pierre Coffin and Chris Renaud, apologize if I'm saying those wrong, they wrote a language for the gibberish that the minions speak throughout the movie that's called Minionese. So each word that they're actually saying is an actual word. It's not just nonsense. Like, it's real.
It kind of seems like that, though, because they have conversations and people just, like...
Yeah, but you get what they're saying. Yeah, it's weird. And then, according to the filmmakers, the minions were initially supposed to be like an army of orc-like brutes, like, well, a lot bigger, not the little tiny yellow things. But they wanted to make Gru sympathetic, and they felt that the easy way to do that was to have him surrounded by incompetence, which is also why they're kind of dumb.
To make him look even smarter. You know what's funny?
Well, to make him look, he's taking care of them. He's not so mean to them, really.
They went from Lord of the Rings orcs to yellow pills.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's quite a change, but
Horrifying. I think it's because they were like, we have to make a family friendly movie, and orc like creatures aren't it.
well, it
That's
makes him
exactly what
seem
happened.
nicer. You know, when he has that first conversation with the minions and he's like, "Hey guys," like he's having like it's like he's a boss, not like it's not the same as like I don't know, the Joker and his henchmen where the Joker will just shoot one of his henchmen and be like, "Oh, well, fuck him."
Yeah.
But anyway, he tells the minions that they're going to steal the moon. That's his big plan that he's been working on because they need to do something big. Dr. Nefario is concerned that they don't have the money for this. And Gru's like, don't worry about it. Like, I am just going to go to the bank. They love me there. Now, before he actually goes to the bank, we go back to those girls that tried to sell him cookies. Margot, Edith, and Agnes. They live at an orphanage. It seems that they have to sell cookies for the orphanage. I think
So they aren't put in the box of shame, which is horrifying.
yes. Miss Hattie is like the I don't know, Miss Trunchable.
What's the in Annie, the
Yeah,
leader of
I couldn't
the
think of
orphanage?
that. Yeah, that's what I wanted to
Because
say.
they make an Annie reference in the movie.
Yes.
One of the girls, when they get to Gru's house, they're like, I thought this would be more like Annie if a
Yeah.
bald guy adopted us.
Yeah, but Kristen Wiig voices Miss Hattie, and she's just a real bitch to the girls. Like you said, the box of shame. As they're like telling Miss Hattie how many cookies they sold, and then they go walking away, they see there is a kid in the box of shame, and they're just like, hey.
They're like, hey, Beatrice. I forget the girl's name.
Yeah.
She's like, hi.
And, she's like, Agnes is asking, like, did anybody come to adopt us? And she's like, let me see. No. Like, just real mean about it. And they don't.
No one ever could go to adopt children because orphanages, we never see them.
Don't get me started. I've talked about that. They should be front and center.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. So, these girls will come back up, but we go back to Gru going to the bank to ask for a loan. He goes into, like, a normal bank, and there's, like, a hidden compartment in the men's bathroom that leads to the evil bank for supervillains. So he goes in there, and this is also where we first meet Vector, who's also in the waiting room. Vector's another supervillain, and he just seems, kind of obnoxious, especially compared to Gru, who's obviously older. And there's scenes in the beginning where you see newspapers on Gru's wall where it says, like, greatest supervillain. Like, he's had a long history of being this great villain, like, or I guess famous villain. But as he talks to the bank people, they're saying, we don't really want to give you money anymore. We don't think that anything that you've done lately has been great. And he says to him specifically, there's villains that are younger than you, hungrier than you, younger than you. Like that young fellow out there talking about Vector.
Which you find out later that that's the bank boss's son.
Yeah, so that kind of works out.
Because Gru announces his plan. He wants to steal the shrink ray, and the guy's like, that sounds great, where's the shrink ray? And he has to get it, and then all of a sudden they're going to get the shrink ray after he's denied the loan from the bank, and Vector comes and steals it from under him.
Yeah, they get it, but then Vector steals it from their ship and uses it on their ship, which shrinks their ship down, and they're not able to get it back.
He like rides it instead of flies it back.
Yeah. And so he tries to steal the shrink ray back from Vector from his house, but Vector's got like crazy security at the house. The one thing he notices is that the three girls, Margot, Edith, and Agnes, are able to get in there to sell Vector cookies.
Yeah, so he decides he's going to adopt them.
So he goes to adopt the girls, and he's pretending to be a doctor. One thing I noticed, it's not a huge thing, but it's one of the things I wrote down for the trivia. When he's applying to adopt the girls, you see his application, and his first name's Felonious. Like, his last name's Gru. And it also made me laugh because it made me think of Shrek. Felonious.
Oh, Felonious.
Remember, he like is shit talking the mirror, and he says Felonious, and Felonious brings up the mirror and just punches it and puts it down. Anyway, also he has the minions like I guess in real time working on his application, and Miss Hattie's like, I see you have a list of your accomplishments. You won a Purple Heart.
She's like, not that I want to read them. Like,
yeah. She's like, and you can hold your breath for 30 seconds. It's not that impressive.
Yeah. I think my favorite is when, the application kind of goes off the wall and he starts speaking to her and she's like, oh, you speak Spanish? And he's like, como un barro. And she is like, oh, swooning at him.
Yeah. Later she comes back around and is like, I bought a Spanish dictionary. Come to find out that he said her face looks like a donkey.
Yeah. Which I thought it was funny the very first time we ever watched this movie. You start dying laughing, and I'm like, what are you laughing at? And because you knew what it meant. It was good.
So he is able to adopt the girls. It's real awkward. Like, they can obviously tell that he's weird.
Yeah.
And he's like uncomfortably smiling. Meanwhile, Agnes is attached to his leg. Like, she's so happy to be adopted, which is also kind of sad.
Because he did not do it for the right reasons.
Yeah, not at all.
He doesn't care about them.
No.
Yet.
And so he tells his Dr. Nefaria to make cookie robots, and that's how they're going to do this. They're going to basically get the girls to sell these cookie robots to Vector so that they can infiltrate inside and get the shrink ray. There is a scene where he goes down to see the robots, and he has dancing robots, and he's like, well, what are these? And he's like, boogie robots. And he's like, I said
They're
cookie.
dancing, yeah.
Yeah. He's like, I said cookie robots. Why are you so
old? Yeah, it's so good.
And in reply to that, Dr. Nefaria just goes, okay.
Yeah.
So
he does end up making the cookie robots, we will say that.
yes, but he's having a hard time with the kids. You know, he's not prepared for this. He thinks he kills one of them, like, real quick in the beginning, because he has one of those, like, old torture chamber things. You know, they're like spikes, and you get in it, and it closes. More spikes. I can't think of what they're called. They have a name, but I don't know.
It's very Edgar Allan Poe of them.
Yeah, but, you know, even when that happens, he's just like, oh, I guess this plan will work with 2 girls, but, you know, she's alive.
And it's the juice box that exploded, so it's not actually blood.
Yes, and the girls find their way into his secret lab, and he's, like, trying to kick them out, and he tells the minions to deal with them. Like, he just doesn't want anything to do with them. Even when it comes time to actually get them to sell the cookies, they're like, well, we have to go to dance class first. And he's like, no. And they argue with him, and they're like, we'll just walk. We're not selling the cookies. So he goes with them, which is just kind of the beginning, I think.
All the ladies start swooning over him at the dance class because he's, like, starting to actually kind of like them.
Yeah, I think it's very early of that, but yes, I think he is starting to have a soft spot for them. Once he eventually gets them to sell the cookies, they get in there. They're able to get the shrink ray. You know, it's kind of a messy situation. They get locked in there and they have to get out with the shrink ray, but they do it, and they're on their way home when the girls see this amusement park called Super Silly Funland, and they're begging him to go, and he keeps saying no until he has, like, a daydream that he can leave them on the roller coaster and just abandon them there. And he tries that, but the guy's like, hey dude, like, someone has to ride with them. And so he ends up getting in there with them, and he has a decent time, but then also they have this one of those games where you have to, like, shoot down the alien in the middle with a little ping pong gun to win a prize, and Agnes wants this big fluffy unicorn doll, and they hit it.
That's because her unicorn got disintegrated.
Yeah. They hit the thing in the middle, and it doesn't go down. And Gru calls out the attendant on it, and he's like, hey, man, it's not my problem.
So he lights it on fire.
Yeah, he brings out, like, a real gun and shoots at it.
And she gets her unicorn.
Yeah, which is, again, something that I don't think he would have done if he didn't already start caring for them. Like,
Well, he comes back. They end up having a good time at the amusement park and do a bunch of things, and he comes back, and his face is painted.
Yeah.
And the scientist, I forget his name, was
Dr.
not
Nefaria.
happy.
Yeah. Dr.
Nefaria
Nefaria is getting mad at him for, like, starting to spend time with the girls. He's like, hey, we need to focus on this moon plan. What are you doing? And Gru proposes this moon plan to the bank and says, I have the shrink ray. And this is also where it's revealed that the bank manager is the father of Vector. And they tell Gru no again. They're like, we're just going to invest our money in a younger villain. Like, it doesn't matter that you have the shrink ray. And Gru's pretty hurt. It shows a flashback to where it almost seemed like maybe he wasn't going to be a villain. Like, when he was growing up, he just wanted to go to the moon. He was, like, telling his mom, like, you see, he drew a picture of the moon. She talks shit. He made a macaroni model of the moon. She talks shit. And he made an actual rocket as a kid, and she just talks shit. And, like, she just keeps going, everything he does.
Thanks, Julie Andrews.
Yeah.
Queen of Genovia, treating kids like that.
Even when he sees, like, as a kid, he sees the first moon landing, he's like, I want to go to the moon. And she says, oh, you're too late. They stopped sending the monkeys to the moon.
Yeah, she's so mean to him.
Yeah. Like, he almost, like...
That's why he doesn't like kids. He has mommy issues.
Yeah, it seems that way. It seems like maybe he wouldn't have been a villain. But the bank manager telling him no yet again, like, gets him in his feels about that.
Yeah.
And he goes to have another meeting with everybody and tell them, hey, we can't do this. We don't have the money. And it's a pretty sweet scene where Agnes like has a piggy bank and hands it to him. And of course there's just like some change in there. But that leads to all the minions like pulling out money out of their pockets.
It's so cute.
Which is kind of funny because earlier in the movie, one of the minions is like, ooh, can we get a raise? And he's like, no raises.
He's like, he apologized, though.
Yeah.
He was upset about it. He's like, I'm sorry, no money, like,
yeah.
No raises. He wasn't like, no. He's not like keeping it all for himself.
Yeah, he really doesn't seem that evil.
Yeah, he's not.
So they agree that they're all gonna like, use the money that they have and use whatever materials they have to like build this rocket. Like they start breaking down things around the house too. And so the plan is gonna happen. They're going through with it, but he again is like falling more in love with having the girls like, and just loving being a father, that kind of thing. He is like, through a montage, you see Dr. Nefario like alone in the lab trying to work on this stuff. He reads them this book, Three Little Kittens, where he like sticks his fingers, it's one of those puppet books you stick your fingers through and it looks like your fingers are the three kittens. And that part kills me because he's reading and he's like, you like this? This is garbage.
Yeah.
Like, just shit talking. And that story, Sleepy Kittens, was made into a tie-in book that you could purchase at the time. I don't know if it's still being printed, but you could actually buy it. Although it did not include the pull-out brush.
Aww.
Which I was like, what the fuck? Why even bother?
Yeah, why bother? You didn't even give us all the accessories.
For real. But he also wants to postpone the rocket launch to go to the girls' dance recital, which is something that came up.
It was the same day as the moon stealing.
Yes.
And Dr. Nefario tells him, no, they can't move the launch date. And the next day, Miss Hattie shows up.
Yes.
To take the girls. And Gru's like, I didn't call you. And Dr. Nefario had called and said that Gru doesn't want the girls anymore and forced him to give up the children.
Yeah, awful move by Dr. Nefario. Like, what an asshole. And the girls are sad, which, he didn't speak up about it. I don't know how I feel about that, but I get it to progress the plot of the movie. The girls go back and they're, like, begging him, but he's just gonna go through with the moon plan. Even one of the minions, like, comes up to him and, like, hands him the ticket to the recital, and he's like, I don't need that. I'm one of the greatest villain minds of this century. I don't go to little girls' recitals. And he throws it and they like stick it back in his pocket. But he goes to steal the moon. It all works out. He gets up there and he
tries to get back in time to go to their recital and shows up too late. And he sees a yellow piece of paper on the back of a chair that says the three girls' dad. What are the girls' names again?
Margot, Edith, and Agnes.
It says Margot, Edith, and Agnes's dad, and then on the back it said Vector. So he was worried because clearly Vector kidnapped the children.
Yeah, it shows Vector tries to like get on the rocket with Gru, but it just doesn't work. Like he gets up there and then gets knocked off. So his next plan was to go to the girls.
I think at that point Dr. Nefario realizes what happened. He goes, "We have to warn him in fast," and proceeds to use the slowest powered wheelchair known to man.
It's funny because the minions are with him and they go running and then they come back because he's still like...
Yeah, it was so good.
But so he has to go to Vector and Vector demands that he gives him the moon. Now, he gives him the moon. Of course, Vector doesn't give him back the girls and goes in a ship with them. And at this point in the movie, several things have been shrunk down. The moon... One of the minions got accidentally shrunk down. And then there was a third thing that was important to what I was trying to say.
I don't know. The elephant got shrunk earlier.
Yeah, well, the point is they start to find out that the shrinking's not permanent. Which makes sense because the shrink ray was being tested when they when they stole it. So it wasn't foolproof yet. And they say that the more mass an object has, the quicker that it wears off.
Gru said that, yes.
Yes, so the moon that Vector has is starting to grow inside of his ship. And it's knocking his shit all around. Or I said Gru, I think. I meant Vector, maybe?
Yes, you meant Vector. The moon is starting to grow inside of Vector's ship. And it breaks the glass tube that the girls are in.
Yes, and so they're climbing out the back, and Gru's just concerned about getting them. He doesn't care about the moon anymore. And it seems like Margot like he gets Edith and Agnes to jump to him, and Margot's kind of hesitant, and I think because
she is the oldest one.
Yes, and I think so. She's had a harder time and is a little more negative about this whole being an orphan thing. And they didn't dive into that, but I felt like that was like more of like an adult theme maybe that you could kind of pick up.
Mm-hmm.
But she does jump to him, and Vector like
they all fall. Gru jumps after her, and the minions grab his foot after he's fell hundreds of feet to make it look like it was only 25.
Yeah. I mean, they defeat Vector because the moon does grow, and it gets...
Well, that was what I had. How'd the moon... Obviously, it grew back to size, but how did it go back into space? Because it was definitely
it did seem like...
in Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it explained it, but
And number 2, Vector's just stuck on the moon now. He has no way to get back.
On top of that...
Is he just going to starve to death?
I didn't mention it, but earlier, they make a joke about, like, Dr. Nefario has this potion that gives anti-gravity, and one of the minions, like... drinks it and floats out the window, and they're like, does it wear off? And he's like, no it doesn't, and that minion just keeps going.
You see it in space every now and then.
It's in space with Vector like later on, but yeah, I guess Vector's just stuck up there now
to die.
With that being said, Gru, he has made up with the girls, I guess. They are living back at the house, and he has a new book for them when they asked to read Three Little Kittens. He wrote them a book. It's super sweet. It's called One Big Unicorn. And it's him, obviously. It's a unicorn with, like, the scarf that he wears. And it's a story about how the unicorn liked being alone.
I think my favorite part was the unicorn's corn.
Yeah, he put his nose...
What would you call it?
Horn.
Please disregard the fact I said corn, because it's a unicorn. Its horn is Gru's pointy nose. He was, like, making fun of himself, which is so good.
But yeah, it was such a sad scene, and, like, Margot hugs him and is like, I love you, and they're calling him dad, and it's just...
He gives them all a kiss on the forehead, finally.
Yeah, which he wouldn't do that throughout the movie.
And then it, proceeds to epilogue, and they have a dance scene, and Gru gets up there shaking those little hips.
Yeah, and also Vector's on the moon dancing,
yeah. He's like, I'm cool just starving to death up here, because, like, what a slow death.
I didn't really touch on it as much as I wanted to, so I'm just going to do a quick, like, run through. Vector was crushed by a moon. A bunch of minions got shot with a rocket. All the people that were froze should be dead. People in this universe are invincible. Yeah, they're indestructible.
Gru also got shot with a rocket at Vector's, remember?
Yeah, it's impossible to kill anyone in this universe.
He also dodged heat-seeking missiles.
Yeah, that's why I think Vector's okay on the moon, because actually these people are immortal.
Invincible, yeah. He can just jump down and cannonball back into Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah. But anyway, I gave the movie a 4 out of 5. Like, I really like this movie. I think it's...
Yeah, I give it a 4.5, so we're in the same.
I think it's great.
It's it's like a cute movie. Yeah, and for me, like, I know that people have seen the Minions and may have a different opinion, but I personally like the Despicable Me movies better than the Minions, which I think affected my score, like, a little bit. Still good, though.
So I think, obviously, I don't think the Minions movies are as good as Despicable Me, but I think that, well, I've only seen the one Minion movie. I didn't see the second.
I saw 2 of them.
I don't know. I think I've seen Despicable Me 1, 2, and then one Minion movie. But my point is I think people have a bad taste in their mouth about the Minions because they are so directly tied to these awful old person fucking memes. But the Minion movie is good. It's like, I didn't think it was going to be good at all. I thought it was going to be awful.
I didn't think it was awful, but I just definitely preferred Despicable Me.
Yeah, I think that Despicable Me gets a little more for older people, I guess, because the dialogue enables...
Because we're old.
Well, I mean, because the Minions, like, you can only get so much emotion, I guess, from a fake language.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a real language, apparently. Anyway, so for the little game that I have, I chose several other villains that steal things, similar to Gru. Because, Gru is obviously famous for several things, but it seemed like the main thing was being a thief. And I want to see who you think would win, I guess, basically, if they were to have, like, a heist off. So we have the Grinch.
Gru.
You think Gru could steal Christmas better than the Grinch?
You said heist, not stealing Christmas, but yes.
They're
he
heisting
has more technology,
Christmas.
He's smarter, and the Grinch's heart has already grown 3 sizes that day, and he doesn't do that anymore. Next.
Gru also doesn't do that anymore?
I think he'll still be a villain. He just still has children. Get out of here.
Okay, so Bowser and Gru, they're supposed to steal Princess Peach.
Bowser.
You think so? I think so, too.
Bowser.
I don't think Gru could do it.
No. I think he'd be like, I'm not kidnapping a woman. His standards.
Bowser's in love with her.
Yeah, that's weird.
Okay, Plankton and Gru trying to steal the secret Krabby Patty formula.
Gru.
Yeah, Plankton's only failed
1000%.
1,000,000 times.
Oh, Karen.
Harry and Merv trying to steal, I don't know, Kevin's life in Home Alone. What were they trying to steal?
I don't think Gru would take their life, but Gru would definitely be smart enough to outsmart Kevin
I think so.
compared to Harry.
He'd probably just
and
blow the
Merv.
house down, right?
Yeah, 1000%.
Freeze Kevin's head with a freeze ray.
Yeah, and then be like, "Oh, I'll rob everything in the house if you just freeze him in place." Yeah.
Team Rocket trying to steal Pikachu from Ash Ketchum versus Gru trying to do the same.
I think Gru. I think that the minions could help him and lure Pikachu over because they could look alike.
Well, Team Rocket has never been successful with it, but I don't think Gru could do it either. Pikachu would fuck them all up. They are invincible. Pikachu! I guess the lightning's not going to hurt them, but you think Gru would win?
Yeah.
Well, that's all I had. Obviously, there is Despicable Me 2, Despicable Me 3, Minions 1 and 2, I think, and Despicable Me 4 comes out this week, I believe. If not, pretty soon. But we wrote sequels just as a direct sequel to this. I don't really remember Despicable Me 2, with the exception of Kristen Wiig's character and Gru getting together.
Yeah.
But I didn't really, write about that. So, I feel I didn't steal anything from the movie, but I don't know. But you first.
I went down a completely different avenue because of that. Mine's called Despicable Family.
Ooh.
It's like a Disney type TV show, like the Lilo and Stitch TV show,
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna be follow Gru teaching the girls like different villain things that he does, and they'll be like a villain family, but also happy loving home. He has the girls in school, but they get into trouble sometimes for taking their like villain tools to school,
Mm-hmm.
and like they don't use them on the kids, but they're like, look, and
Yeah.
they accidentally shrink ray a table or stuff like that. Just like all in good fun, all in good fun.
Yeah.
Boy, I can't talk.
If you just do a clean one, I'll cut out the rest, or I'll leave this all in.
Either way.
Okay.
I did do a clean one though.
Well, you have to match the tone, otherwise it's like it's
they-
all in good fun.
I'll just leave it all.
Okay.
We did our best.
We're very good at podcasting,
yeah.
actually.
#1 podcast in the world for movie sequel ideas.
Damn right.
So the girls get into trouble, but not, huge trouble. They're not bullying or anything. I don't think that they would actually do that. But Gru also learns how to be better because of them. Like, I feel like he already had a good heart and he's a villain. He steals things, but then he, gave the moon back. He just wanted the clout of being a good villain, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have kept the moon.
No.
And so a lesson can be taught at the end of each little episode. Yeah.
I like
That's my
that.
idea. Thank you.
Are we talking a Disney Junior show, or is this like a...
I still think it could be Illumination.
Yeah. Oh, that was my last trivia I didn't say earlier, but this was Illumination's first movie.
Oh, nice.
Isn't that crazy? Like, I feel
That
like it was
is
really
crazy.
good for a first...
I feel like it would be in, the kids section of, Paramount Plus. Not Paramount Plus, but, Peacock or something like that.
That is where we watched it. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So you just go in the kids section of Peacock, and it's called Despicable Family. We got Pharrell changing his song, Despicable Family, as the intro.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got it. We're good.
Okay.
Anyway, what's yours?
I did Despicable Me, Vector's Vengeance.
Oh, so Vector does get off the moon somehow.
Gru has been so busy raising Margot, Edith, and Agnes that he hasn't had much time for being a supervillain, which has made Dr. Nefario, now voiced by Rainn Wilson, upset and has decided to quit. You don't like Rainn Wilson?
I do. Why'd you change the voice?
Russell Brand unfortunately passed away.
What?
Yeah.
That's not
If you don't believe me, look him up. Type in Russell Brand controversy, and I'm sure that'll come up and explain what happened to him.
Okay.
Anyway, Dr. Nefario is upset, and he's decided to quit. He's confronted by Gru, and Gru looked at him as family, so Dr. Nefario brings up the fact that over the past several months, he's been instructed by Gru to build several toys with a lack of evil, and he can't take it anymore. Gru is hurt by this and says some hurtful things to Dr. Nefario, finalizing the doctor's decision to quit. Gru continues to focus on being a single father and realizes without Dr. Nefario's help, he needs to make money. He begins trying to use his gadgets and the minions to help people. It's going really well and the girls are even helping him, But eventually things start going horrible and everyone he tries to help ends up in a worse situation. Gru starts to wonder if he's even capable of being anything other than a villain, and after the stress starts to get to him, he yells at Agnes, causing her to cry, which makes him think he isn't even good at being a father. The main theme of the movie would be about redemption from mistakes made in Gru's life as a villain, and as with his recent shortcomings as a father. So Gru begins by apologizing to the girls and vows to do better. During this conversation, the family notices they're being watched by a minion outside. Confused, Gru attempts to confront the minion, leading to a chase. When Gru finally catches up to the minion, he sees this minion is none other than Bob, who floated away to the moon. And he's meeting up with Vector and Dr. Nefario, who are working together and have been sabotaging Gru. The trio notice him, and Vector shoots a squid at Gru that captures him. Vector then explains to Gru how Bob felt betrayed since Gru never came for him, and Vector sat on Bob's head and used his floating to get back to Earth. So I imagine like a scene of Vector like doing like a paddle in space, like sitting on the minion. So he sat on Bob's head, used his floating to get back to Earth, where they found Dr. Nefario looking for evil work, so Vector hired him to use his intimate knowledge of Gru to get revenge. Gru is hurt by this and sulks home as Vector let him go, claiming he's free to live his life knowing this trio will always be there to make his life worse. Gru, the girls, and the minions continue to help people, being cautious of any sabotage by Vector. When Vector attempts to sabotage Margot's birthday party by releasing land sharks, which are modified great whites, I'm imagining like not actual land sharks, like a shark with like legs that can be, cartoony. Plus, it seemed like Vector was obsessed with aquatic shit.
Couldn't it be dogs dressed in shark costumes?
That wouldn't be as scary.
No.
But, he had the squid gun. He's some other fish gun. He had a shark thing. Anyway. Dr. Nefario and Bob feel maybe he's going too far, and they go against him, warning Gru of what is coming. Because obviously they don't want a little girl to get hurt, and he's planning on releasing sharks there. Mm-hmm. Bob and Dr. Nefario make up with Gru as he apologizes to them for his mistakes and shows them he is different, and though he won't return to evil, he wants Dr. Nefario to remain part of his family. With knowledge of Vector's plan, Gru is able to turn the tables on Vector and eventually uses an aquatic change ray that has been altered by Dr. Nefario to turn Vector into a goldfish that he gifts to Dr. Nefario to run evil experiments on.
Ooh, it turned dark at the end.
I mean, I think it could be a funny little joke where he's like, you can have this and use all your evil on it, and then,
I think it's funny because this is going to be so dumb, but it's funny that you turned him into a goldfish because he wears orange and
That's
white.
That's why I thought.
And goldfishes are orange.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what you were aiming for, but it's so good. Yeah.
The film ends showing the family continuing to help the world and live happily ever after.
Man, all of your sequels are always just so on point and thought out, and I have 4 lines written.
I don't think so. And I mean, it would never pass. You need fucking 60 pages for a script of a movie.
I know, but still, it's pretty good.
Well, that's for the viewers to decide. Don't
Mine's
be afraid
better.
to vote.
Don't worry, yeah.
You just said mine was better.
No, I said all of your sequels are always so well thought out.
I guess you're right. It was just in my head because I knew it was better, so I thought.
Oh, no. You don't know anything.
Oh, thank you so much for listening. We do so appreciate it. If you want to talk movies with us, you can find us on TikTok, Instagram, Letterboxd, Threads, and Twitter. We are NansPod everywhere.
NansPod?
If you'd like to vote on whose sequel idea was the best, come by our YouTube channel for the polls, or let us know your idea across our socials with a comment, tweet, or you can reach us at needlesssequel@gmail.com.
You won't.
Links, as always, will be wherever you are listening. And if you wouldn't mind, share our show with someone, leave us a review, and come back for more. We would love to have you and hear what we can do to improve. Next week, we are watching Sausage Party.
Oh, boy. I am so excited. That will not be an episode for the kids, parents.
All right. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you next week. And remember, there are a lot of new villains out there, younger than you, hungrier than you, younger than you.
Bye.